Michigan's wild beauty hides secrets far older than its modern towns. Beneath its forests, lakes, and rocky shores lie traces of lost civilizations, strange carvings and ancient copper mines that defy explanation. From mysterious petroglyphs to ghost ships haunting Lake Superior, Michigan's past whispers through its landscape, hinting at stories the land still refuses to reveal. The Torch Lake Ancient Mining Pits. Deep in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Torch Lake lies quiet and glassy, its blue-green surface reflecting the thick forested hills that surround it. It's a peaceful place now, a summer retreat for boaters and fishermen. But long before there were cabins or marinas, something far older was happening here. Beneath the soil and scattered across the nearby ridges are clues to a mystery that's still unsolved. Who were the ancient miners that once worked the copper deposits around Torch Lake thousands of years ago? When explorers and settlers first arrived in the area during the 1800s, they noticed strange trenches, pits, and heaps of rock near the lake. At first they thought these were just natural formations, but soon it became clear that they were anything but. The pits were dug with purpose. Hammerstones and crude tools were found near them, stone mauls, wedges, and even wooden shovels preserved by the cool ground. When archaeologists began studying the sites, they realized the scale was enormous. Tens of thousands of tons of copper had been removed from the ground long before Europeans ever set foot here. The surprising part wasn't just that ancient people had mined the copper, it was how much they had mined. Some estimates suggest that, across the Keweenaw Peninsula and around Torch Lake, ancient miners extracted hundreds of millions of pounds of copper over thousands of years. But there was a problem. If all that copper had been mined, where did it go? Native tribes in the region, like the Ojibwe and Menominee, used copper for tools, fishhooks, and ornaments, but not in the vast quantities suggested by the mining evidence. There's a gap, a mystery of disappearance. Some researchers believe much of that copper simply eroded away, was melted down, or is still buried. Others, however, suspect something more intriguing, that the copper was traded far beyond the Great Lakes, maybe even across the ocean. This theory gained traction in the late 1800s, when artifacts made of nearly pure copper began turning up in archaeological sites far from Michigan. Some were found in Ohio, others as far away as the Mississippi Valley, all dating back thousands of years. Their chemical makeup closely matched the native copper found around Lake Superior. This suggested an extensive trade network, one so large it connected distant cultures long before modern civilization. Yet some took the idea even further. In the mid-1900s, fringe writers claimed that the copper might have been shipped across the Atlantic by ancient sailors, perhaps Phoenicians or Egyptians searching for metal. It's a bold claim, and most scholars dismiss it as speculation. Still, it's easy to understand why the idea caught people's imagination. The mystery of the missing copper left room for wonder. Walking through the woods near Torch Lake today, you can still find traces of those old pits. They look like shallow craters filled with leaves and moss. Some are hidden by roots or half collapsed under centuries of weather. But they're there, silent reminders of a forgotten industry. When you pick up a stone from the ground, you might notice faint marks where someone long ago struck it with another rock to shape a tool. The air feels heavy, almost timeless, and it's easy to picture small groups of miners chipping away at the rock by firelight. Archaeologists have found that many of the mining pits once had fires built in them. The ancient miners would heat the rock until it cracked, then pour water on it to break it apart. Using hammerstones, they pried out chunks of copper and shaped them right on the spot. These weren't primitive people acting at random. They had a deep understanding of the material and how to work it efficiently. They must have passed this knowledge down through generations. What's most striking is how much they accomplished without metal tools. All they had were stones and wood. Yet they managed to dig deep into the bedrock and extract pure copper that could be hammered into knives, awls, and ornaments. It shows an impressive level of skill and patience. But the more that's uncovered, the stranger it becomes. Some pits are found miles apart, yet share similar layouts and tool types, suggesting a shared culture or coordinated effort. The people who did this mining weren't isolated, they were part of something bigger. Around Torch Lake, it appears they lived seasonally, coming to the mines in warmer months. They may have camped nearby, leaving behind pottery fragments, fire pits, and refuse that tell bits of their story. Still, the mystery remains unsolved. Archaeologists can't agree on exactly who the miners were. Some link them to the old copper complex, a culture that thrived in the Great Lakes region between 4000 and 1000 BCE. They were among the earliest people in North America to work metal. Others suggest that mining continued later, perhaps by various tribal groups who used the sites for centuries. There's no clear end date, no sign of why the mining stopped. One theory is that easy-to-reach copper became scarce, forcing the miners to move on. Another idea is that cultural changes or environmental pressures caused them to abandon the pits. Whatever the reason, the work eventually ended, and the forest slowly reclaimed the area. In the 1800s, when industrial miners rediscovered these ancient workings, they were stunned by what they saw. Some of the old pits had been so carefully dug that they followed copper veins just as a trained geologist might. Modern miners even reopened a few of the ancient sites, finding small stone hammers left behind thousands of years earlier, sometimes still lying beside exposed copper. One report described a tree root that had grown through a hammer handle, suggesting it had been untouched for centuries. There's something haunting about that image, a tool frozen in time, waiting to be found. It makes you realize that this wasn't just an archaeological site. It was once a place of human effort, sweat, and purpose. People stood here, where the wind still moves through the pines, and worked to shape their world. Today, Torch Lake's ancient pits sit mostly undisturbed. Some are fenced off for safety, while others are hidden deep in the woods, visited only by curious hikers or local historians. The land around the lake bears other scars from more recent mining. The copper rush of the 19th century left slag piles and abandoned shafts, but the ancient pits are quieter, more subtle. They belong to a different age entirely. Local legends have grown around them. Some old miners claimed they felt an eerie presence while digging near the ancient pits, as if they were trespassing on sacred ground. Others said they found strange carvings or symbols on stones near the old diggings, though most of those tales have never been proven. Still, they add to the lake's atmosphere, a sense that the past is close, almost tangible. If you stand by the shore at sunset, watching the light fade over the water, it's easy to feel the weight of that history. The waves lap gently, and the air smells of pine and metal. Somewhere beneath the surface, veins of copper still run through the rock, untouched since those first miners laid down their tools. You can almost imagine them, ghostly figures in the fading light, carrying hammerstones and baskets of ore, their voices lost to time. What drives people to dig into the earth, generation after generation, chasing a metal they can shape and polish but never eat or drink? Maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's survival, or maybe even thousands of years ago copper meant something more, something that shimmered not just with value but with meaning. The mystery of Torch Lake's ancient mining pits isn't just about lost technology or missing copper, it's about connection. It reminds us that long before modern borders or machines, people here understood the land deeply. They worked with it, not against it, and they left behind a puzzle that still speaks to anyone willing to listen. Today, Torch Lake remains one of Michigan's most beautiful places, a deep, clear lake with a rich past hidden beneath the soil. Whether you come for the scenery or the history, you can't help but feel the pull of its mystery. The wind whispers through the trees, and for a moment you can almost hear the faint echo of hammering deep underground, a sound that once defined a forgotten world. The Beaver Island Stone Circles. Out in the northern waters of Lake Michigan, where the mainland fades into blue and gulls circle over rocky shores, lies Beaver Island, a quiet place with pine forests, sandy dunes, and a deep sense of isolation. Today it's a small, peaceful community known for fishing and summer cottages. But hidden in its woods and along its ridges are strange stone formations that have puzzled people for generations. Locals call them the Beaver Island Stone Circles, and their origin remains one of Michigan's most enduring ancient mysteries. At first glance, the circles don't look like much, just clusters of stones arranged in patterns, some half buried by moss and time. But when you start to map them out, you notice something odd. Many of these circles seem deliberate, evenly spaced, and built with purpose. Some measure several feet across, while others form larger rings, almost like outlines of forgotten foundations. Over the years, researchers, historians, and a fair share of curious wanderers have come to this remote island to ask the same question: who built these circles, and why? The earliest recorded mention came from settlers in the mid-1800s who found the stones while clearing land for farming. They assumed they were ancient fire pits or burial sites. Later, archaeologists visiting the island realized that the formations were far too consistent to be random. Some circles contained upright stones, while others were made up of flat slabs laid carefully on edge. A few were aligned toward the sunrise or sunset, almost as if marking seasonal changes. That alignment sparked a theory that the Beaver Island circles might have served as early calendars or ceremonial sites, places where people watched the sun's movement to track the passing of seasons. It's not impossible. Native tribes in the Great Lakes region, like the Anishinaabe, have long traditions of reading the stars and honoring natural cycles. But the circles don't perfectly match known indigenous patterns. Some are older than the oldest recorded settlements on the island. Beaver Island itself has a layered history. Long before Europeans arrived, the island was used by native peoples for fishing, gathering, and seasonal camps. Artifacts found nearby, arrowheads, pottery fragments, and copper tools suggest human presence going back thousands of years. The stone circles could be part of that deep past, remnants of rituals or gatherings that once took place here, but no one can say for sure. In the 20th century, amateur archaeologists began documenting the circles more carefully. They noted that some of the stones appeared to have been shaped or moved from other parts of the island, which would have taken serious effort. Others noticed patterns between certain sites. Some circles seemed to form lines when plotted on a map, connecting high points across the island. Were these lines accidental, or could they represent something, a kind of landscape map or spiritual pathway? One local legend says the circles mark places of power, where the Earth's energy feels stronger. Some islanders even claim to feel it physically, a subtle vibration or warmth when standing inside a ring. Skeptics, of course, call this suggestion more spiritual than scientific, but the stories persist. In a place as quiet and untouched as Beaver Island, it's easy to imagine that certain spots might hold a special kind of presence. There's also a theory that the circles were once the bases of ancient dwellings, perhaps wigwams or huts built long before the recorded native settlements. In this view, the stones weren't ceremonial at all, but practical, used to hold wooden poles in place. Over time, the organic materials decayed, leaving only the ring of stones behind. It's a simple, believable explanation, but it doesn't fit all of the sites. Some circles are far too large or perfectly aligned to make sense as homes. Others sit on rocky cliffs where people were unlikely to build at all. That's where the mystery deepens. When you walk among the trees on Beaver Island and come across one of these circles, there's a feeling that's hard to describe. The air feels still, like the place is holding its breath. You can hear the lake in the distance, the soft crash of waves, but around the stones everything seems strangely hushed. The forest floor is thick with pine needles, and the stones peek out like teeth through the moss. Some are only a few inches tall, others almost knee-high, arranged with a care that doesn't seem accidental. On a sunny day, the light filters through the trees and throws shadows across the stones, creating natural patterns that seem to shift as the sun moves. It's easy to see why early visitors thought the circles might be astronomical. When you stand in the center and look toward the horizon, certain gaps in the circle line up with where the sun rises or sets at particular times of year. Whether that alignment was intentional or coincidence, no one knows. Over time, stories grew around the circles. Some said they were made by ancient travelers who came across the lake from faraway lands, possibly even from across the ocean. That idea, popular in the early 1900s, claimed the circles were part of an ancient navigation system built by people who mined copper in the Upper Peninsula and used Beaver Island as a stop on their route. There's no solid evidence for that, but the image is captivating. Foreign sailors mapping their journey with stone markers on a lonely island thousands of years ago. Another version connects the circles to local native legends. According to some Anishinaabe elders, Beaver Island was once a sacred place known for its strong spirits and powerful dreams. They say people came here for vision quests, to fast and pray. The circles in that light might have been places of ceremony or meditation. If true, they'd hold not just archaeological but spiritual significance, representing a living connection between people and the land. When modern archaeologists study the island today, they approach the mystery carefully. They note that without detailed excavation, it's hard to date the circles accurately. Many have been disturbed by time, erosion, or human activity. Yet even with modern tools, ground-penetrating radar, GPS mapping, the full story refuses to reveal itself. Each stone circle offers hints but no answers. If you visit Beaver Island now, it's easy to feel why the mystery still draws people in. Getting there isn't simple. You have to take a ferry or a small plane from Charlevoix, and once you arrive, the island feels far removed from the rest of the world. The roads turn to dirt, cell signals fade, and the sound of the lake becomes constant. When you find one of the stone circles, it feels like stepping through time. You can imagine the people who placed those stones, maybe singing or marking a season, their lives tied to rhythms we no longer understand. Some visitors leave small offerings, tobacco, shells, or wildflowers out of respect, though most just stand quietly, trying to feel some trace of the past. Whether you believe in energy lines or just human history, there's something undeniably powerful about standing inside a circle that has survived thousands of years. The Beaver Island stone circles remind us how little we truly know about the deep history of North America. They're small and unassuming, yet they carry echoes of a time before written language, before modern borders or names. Maybe they were dwellings, maybe calendars, or maybe something we can't yet imagine. Whatever their purpose, they hold a quiet kind of truth, a message carved not in words but in stone, waiting patiently in the northern woods. And as the sun sets over Lake Michigan, lighting the water with gold and crimson, you can almost sense those ancient builders watching the same horizon, measuring the same light, and wondering about the same mysteries that still capture us today. The lost copper fort near Ontonagon. Deep in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, along the rugged shoreline of Lake Superior, lies the small town of Ontonagon. At first glance, it's a quiet, windswept place surrounded by forests and rocky outcrops. But beneath its calm surface is one of the state's oldest mysteries, the legend of a lost copper fort said to have been built long before European settlers arrived. Some believe it was an ancient fortress made by a forgotten civilization. Others think it's evidence of Old World visitors, possibly miners from across the Atlantic who came to harvest Michigan's rich copper deposits thousands of years ago. The Upper Peninsula is famous for its copper. Long before Europeans set foot in North America, native peoples were already extracting pure copper from the ground and shaping it into tools, weapons, and ornaments. Archaeologists have found thousands of prehistoric mine pits scattered across the Keweenaw Peninsula and Isle Royale, some stretching back nearly 7,000 years. But it's what's rumored to have been found near Ontonagon that keeps historians, treasure hunters, and locals guessing. According to 19th century reports, early settlers and explorers heard stories from the Ojibwe about an ancient fort near the Ontonagon River. It was said to be built of massive stone blocks, unlike anything known from Native American construction in the region. Some early accounts describe it as being surrounded by a ditch or embankment, with walls so heavy and weathered that they appeared to have been there since the dawn of time. No one could agree on who built it or when, but everyone who saw the ruins agreed it didn't look natural. In the mid-1800s, copper fever swept through Michigan. Prospectors scoured the wilderness for veins of the shiny metal, digging new shafts wherever their compasses and luck took them. During this time, explorers rediscovered what they believed might be the remains of that legendary structure. There were whispers of walls half buried in the forest, a stone platform near the river, and strange artifacts made of hammered copper, not crude or primitive but refined, as if shaped by skilled hands using tools unknown to local tribes. The story caught the attention of historians who were already fascinated by Michigan's ancient copper culture. Some speculated the fort could have been built by a vanished race of miners, perhaps a prehistoric people who had mastered the art of metalworking long before recorded history. Others pointed to the legend of Old World contact, suggesting that ancient Phoenicians, Minoans, or even Norse explorers might have sailed across the Atlantic to harvest copper for their civilizations. That idea gained traction in the late 19th century, when a handful of researchers argued that Michigan's prehistoric copper mines showed evidence of organized extraction, massive quantities of ore removed with fire, stone hammers, and primitive levers. They claimed that so much copper had been taken that it couldn't possibly have been for local use alone. One theory proposed that as much as 500,000 tons of copper had been mined before Columbus, a staggering number that seemed to demand a larger explanation. But there's a problem. No one has ever found definitive proof that the fort existed in the way the stories describe it. Despite dozens of expeditions, no archaeologist has uncovered a verified stone structure that matches the old descriptions. Some researchers believe the fort might have been a natural rock formation, mistaken for man-made walls. Others think parts of it could have been destroyed during early mining operations, long before professional documentation could be done. The truth may have been lost to time or buried beneath modern development along the riverbank. Still, the legend persists. In Ontonagon, you can find old maps that mark the supposed location of the site, just upriver, where dense forest and tangled undergrowth make exploration difficult. Some locals tell of strange metal fragments found after heavy rains, or of underground chambers that miners stumbled upon and sealed off decades ago. Even today, the woods around Ontonagon carry an air of secrecy, as if they're hiding something ancient beneath the moss and leaves. Modern archaeologists remain cautious. They acknowledge that the Upper Peninsula's prehistoric copper miners were highly skilled, but their techniques fit within what's known of indigenous technology. Native tribes like the Ojibwe and their ancestors had a deep understanding of the land and its resources. They didn't need outside influence to mine copper effectively. Many experts argue that crediting distant civilizations like the Phoenicians or Vikings distracts from the impressive accomplishments of the region's native peoples. Yet for some, the mystery of the lost copper fort still feels unresolved. The combination of oral tradition, unusual stone formations, and the immense scale of ancient mining keeps curiosity alive. Could there have been an organized settlement, maybe even a fortified one, built by the ancient copper workers themselves? It's not impossible. A fortified site could have protected miners, storage areas, or sacred grounds connected to copper, which was considered a spiritual material. Visiting Ontonagon today, you can still feel that layered history. The town is quiet, perched near the mouth of the river that once drew so many explorers. A short drive inland takes you to thick forests where you can find traces of old mine shafts, rusted tools, and ancient pits overgrown with trees. The air smells of pine and cold water. It's easy to imagine what this place looked like centuries ago, a rugged wilderness echoing with the sound of stone hammers and the crackle of fire used to loosen the copper veins. Locals sometimes tell visitors about strange lights seen deep in the woods, especially near old mining sites. Some believe these lights are spirits guarding the lost copper or the remains of the ancient builders themselves. Whether you take it as folklore or something more mysterious, it adds an eerie charm to the area. The forest feels alive, watching, waiting, keeping its secrets. In recent years, a few amateur archaeologists have tried to relocate the supposed ruins, using modern tools like ground-penetrating radar and drone mapping. So far, they've found some curious geological formations and old mining debris, but nothing that clearly fits the fort described in old tales. Still, interest in the story hasn't faded. Each summer, new explorers arrive hoping to find something that will finally connect the legend to solid evidence. Standing by the Ontonagon River at dusk, it's easy to see why this mystery endures. The copper-colored light of sunset reflects off the water, and the surrounding hills seem older than time. Somewhere in those woods, or perhaps deep underground, may lie the remains of a forgotten structure that once guarded the world's purest copper. Or maybe the fort never existed, and what's truly hidden here is the power of human imagination, shaped by the land itself. Whether fact or folklore, the lost copper fort near Ontonagon remains one of Michigan's great unsolved mysteries. It ties together the ancient skill of native copper workers, the lure of hidden treasure, and the timeless question of who walked these lands before recorded history began. When you visit today, you might not find walls of stone or secret chambers, but you'll feel the same pull that's drawn people here for centuries, the sense that something extraordinary once happened, and that its traces still linger just beneath the forest floor. The ghost ship of Lake Superior. Lake Superior has always had a strange kind of power. It's beautiful and brutal at the same time. Vast, cold, and unpredictable. The locals call it Gitch Gumi, a name that goes back to Native American legend, meaning great water, and beneath its shifting waves, it has swallowed hundreds of ships. But among all those wrecks and tragedies, one story stands out. The tale of a ghost ship, said to rise from the mist and glide silently across the lake, the phantom vessel of Lake Superior. No one agrees on what the ship really is. Some say it's the doomed steamer Bannockburn, lost with her entire crew in 1902. Others believe it's a nameless schooner, drifting eternally, a warning to sailors caught in bad weather. Over the years, captains, fishermen, and Coast Guardsmen have all claimed to see it, a glowing silhouette in the fog, sails tattered, moving without sound or wake, and just as suddenly as it appears, it vanishes, swallowed again by the cold gray horizon. The most famous theory ties the ghost ship to the Bannockburn, a Canadian freighter that disappeared on November 21st, 1902. She left Port Arthur, Ontario, bound for the steel mills of Midland, carrying a full load of grain. The weather turned rough that night, but nothing that experienced sailors hadn't faced before. The ship was last sighted near Caribou Island by the steamer Huronic, which reported her following the same course. But when the Bannockburn failed to arrive, searchers found nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, not even a life ring. It was as if the lake had simply swallowed her whole. Weeks later, pieces of wood and a broken oar washed up near Grand Marais, but nothing that could confirm the ship's fate. The crew of 15 was never found. Newspapers called it the Flying Dutchman of the Great Lakes, and the name stuck. For years after the disappearance, sailors claimed to see the outline of a freighter, its deck lights glowing faintly in storms, appearing just before rough weather hit. Some said the ship looked half submerged, others described it as bright as fire, but all agreed it brought bad luck to anyone who saw it. There's a chilling consistency in the accounts. Most sightings happened during November, around the same time the Bannockburn was lost. The lake is at its most violent then. Icy winds, walls of fog, and waves that can rise higher than houses. Sailors have described hearing the ghostly sound of an engine and distant shouting carried over the wind, only to find nothing on the radar or horizon. It's as if the lake itself keeps replaying the ship's final moments. Some skeptics suggest natural explanations. Temperature inversions can make distant lights appear closer or distorted, a phenomenon known as fata morgana. In that illusion, a real ship miles away can look like a ghostly vessel hovering just above the water. Others think people are simply seeing reflections or fragments of wrecks lifted by the lake's strong currents. But that doesn't explain the many reports from experienced sailors who knew the difference between illusion and reality, or the fear that still hangs over certain routes where the ghost ship is said to appear. Lake Superior has always had a reputation for being unforgiving. Its waters are so cold that bodies rarely decompose, which is why wrecks from 100 years ago remain eerily intact on the lakebed. Divers who've explored them describe a silence so deep it feels like time has stopped. Ships like the Edmund Fitzgerald, lost in 1975, lie preserved in that frozen graveyard, their stories echoing through generations of sailors. The Bannockburn fits into that same legacy, a reminder that even in modern times, the lake can take what it wants and never give it back. Locals around Marquette, Whitefish Bay, and Thunder Bay still trade stories about ghostly sightings. Fishermen talk about strange lights that skim the surface before a storm, or a dark outline that seems to follow them through the fog. One old story tells of a freighter captain who spotted a ship dead ahead, lights glowing red, and turned hard to avoid a collision, but his radar showed nothing, and when he looked again, the other vessel was gone. Legends even claim that the Bannockburn's crew appears on the deck during certain nights, pale figures standing motionless as the ship glides by. Some say their eyes glow faintly. Others describe them as silhouettes staring toward shore, forever trying to reach home. It's the kind of story that feels impossible, yet fits perfectly with the atmosphere of Lake Superior, a place where weather, water, and myth blend so seamlessly it's hard to know where one ends and the other begins. From a scientific standpoint, there's nothing paranormal about Superior's mysteries. It's simply a massive inland sea with extreme weather and deceptive light conditions. But anyone who's spent time on those waters knows it feels different. The air is heavy, the horizon endless, and when fog rolls in, it feels like you're drifting between worlds. There's a kind of reverence in the silence, the sense that something ancient and powerful is watching. Modern mariners still treat the Bannockburn legend with a mix of respect and caution. It's considered bad luck to mock the ghost ship or joke about it before a voyage. Old-timers say that if you see her, you should steer clear and say a prayer for the lost crew. Some shipping routes even include informal superstitions, like tossing a bit of tobacco or whiskey into the water as an offering to the lake. It's a quiet way of saying, we remember, and we respect the dead. If you visit the Upper Peninsula today, you'll find museums and historical markers dedicated to Superior shipwrecks. The Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point keeps the memory of the Bannockburn alive, along with hundreds of others. Artifacts, ship bells, and personal items are displayed in glass cases, reminders of how fragile life was and still is on this unpredictable lake. On calm days, the water looks almost gentle, but locals will tell you that calm is a disguise. Superior changes fast, and when it does, it shows its true merciless power. Standing on the rocky shore at dusk, you can see how stories like this survive. The horizon blurs in the fading light, and sometimes, just for a moment, the reflection of a distant freighter looks too still, too perfect, as if it doesn't belong to this world. Maybe it's a trick of the eye, or maybe it's something else. After all, if any lake were big enough to hold its ghosts, it would be this one. Whether the ghost ship is the Bannockburn, another lost freighter, or something more symbolic, it continues to haunt the imagination of everyone who sails or lives near Lake Superior. It reminds us that even in a world of satellites and sonar, there are still places where mystery rules and where the line between life and legend is thin as mist.